Thank you, Sean. Good evening, President Boulay, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you for having me this evening. And thank you, yes, to the team. They are amazing, and more to come. So we're doing a lot of great stuff. So thank you. So now we're going to go into talking about student growth on CAASPP and student achievement. Dr. Nicholas shared the initial overall scores and how we've gone up in each of the areas. I do want to highlight that in every year I've been here, I haven't been able to share this information with any of you until late September. Principals haven't had this actionable data until late into August. Definitely a site-to-site comparison has not been until September, October. So this is really getting data in our hands at the right time so we can start the school year ready to go to support the students. So it is really a game changer, but it's actually really exciting. So we're all pretty much data geeks around here. So highlighting ELA growth, 1.37% increase, science 5.15% increase, and math 2.25% increase. So those are the overview, but now we're going to talk about what do we see as trends, insights, and implications within the data. So this is rounded. So I'm going to show you this first chart. This is a chart you see year over year, but I'm just going to break down ELA for you. It'll be the same for math and science. The left side is 2025. The right side is 2024. The top bar is the district. They are rounded numbers, so I'm giving you the actual in the arrow. So you can see district 76% increase 1.37, and then you can see how the schools did across the district. In math, same, district at the top, an increase of 2.25 at 72%, showing how the schools did overall. And then in science, district at the top, 5.15% increase with the separate schools along the bottom. And then going into our two-year subgroup comparison. So I'm going to share this information with you. I'm going to give you some information in about 8 to 10 slides that's going to give a little bit more of a story into these numbers and what they mean. But for purposes of this presentation now, the outline's the same. 2025 on the side and 24 on the left, 2024 on the right. Our Black, African American, and English learners and socioeconomically disadvantaged students showed a decline from year to year, with our students with disabilities and white showing slight increases. In math, our Black African American subgroup went up, as well as socioeconomically disadvantaged and white, with Hispanic and students with disabilities a slight decrease. And lastly, in science, Black African American, English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged and white, all with increases. So what does that mean? I'm going to focus right now on English learners, and I'm going to break down some definitions for English learners, how English learners are seen through the state as well as CAASPP, and then what it means when they're reclassified. So starting with the English learner definition, a student coming into a district at the time of enrollment, a parent or a guardian will mark on a home language survey that there's a language other than English spoken in the home. So that triggers the English language proficiency assessment to be given. I'm going to call that LPAC for the remainder of the presentation. So home language survey, student takes this, the LPAC. If the student is deemed to need support in acquiring English language, they are now identified as an English learner. So that's the first stage. If an English learner has been an English learner for a certain period of time, they are considered a long-term English learner. Going forward, I'll refer to them as LTELs. There's 2 definitions for these kids. The dashboard, the California dashboard, identifies an English learner as long-term LTEL if they have not acquired English language proficiency within 7 years. Now, DataQuest, CAASPP, and LPAC, where we receive our information and also is reported to the state, they require 3 things to occur for a student to be considered an LTEL. Enrolled in a U.S. school for 6 or more years, remained at the same English language proficiency for 2 consecutive years or declined, And the third, and have to have all three, in grades 6 through 9 have scored standard not met on the ELA CAASPP test. The third definition I'm going to review with you is reclassified English language learners. These are former English learners who have met 4 criteria as required by Ed Code. Ed Code is on the left. They have to score early advanced or higher on LPAC, score state standards basic or higher, teacher evaluation on academics, and parent or guardian consultation. So those are the required 4. The state allows districts to create local criteria that match those 4 state criteria. So our LUSD EL master plan identifies students can be reclassified if they have an overall LPAC score of a 4, fall MAP reading score that correlates to CAASPP standard nearly met, a report card grade in ELA of 3 or C or above, and then teacher evaluation of academic performance and parent guardian consultation. So, with all that said, so we've talked about who an English learner is, reclassified English learner, LTEL. The one student I didn't talk about was the IFEP, Initial Fluent English Proficient, and they're gonna be the second column from the left, so I'll get to them in 1 second. On the far left side are English-only students. They've never been identified as an English learner. So that's going to be our base right now, English only. The second column over are IFEP, Initial Fluent English Proficient. That means that the student was identified having a language other than English on the home language survey. They were given the LPAC test and were deemed fluent the very first time they ever took it, therefore called Initial Fluent English Proficient. So that's the second column. The third column over are going to be our reclassified Fluent English Proficient. They were English learners at one time. They're reclassified. As a district, we are responsible to monitor them for 4 years. And then the far right column are English learners. So I wanted to identify the columns first, then I'll go back and explain the data. So in English language arts, you can see our English-only students, far left, how they are scoring in ELA on CAASPP. About 70% proficient advanced there. The IFEP, the initial fluent, those students are outperforming our English-only students. So students who have taken the CAASPP, who have been identified as having a language other than English spoken in the home, are scoring higher than our English-only students. Are reclassified fluent English proficient. They were English learners, still are considered English learners as far as we're concerned. We'll continue to support them, but they're proficient now. They also are outperforming our English-only students. And then on the right side, you see our English learners who are still considered English learners. They have not received or not mastered all 4 of those criteria per Ed Code. They're still an English learner, and they are showing areas where they still need support. So that's important that I want you guys to see, want everyone to see that. There is one group of students who are English learners who will not be on this report, and they are students who have been in the United States less than 1 year. They're the only English learners who are not required to take the CAASPP test for ELA. Those students are in the math CAASPP. If you come from another country with a very limited English proficiency, you've been here a month, you need to take math CAASPP and science. And there's lots of reading involved in those 2 tests. So again, looking at the same report, English only on the left, you can see our initial fluent English proficient students and our reclassified students are outperforming English only students, with our English learners on the right-hand side still showing proficiency in math. However, you can see that it's not as high as the reclassified and initial fluent. And lastly, science. Again, initial fluent English proficient and reclassified are outperforming our English only. Our English learner students, while they are showing that they are not doing as well as the other 3 groups, it's important to note just how many are in that yellow band. As Dr. Nicholas spoke about, that's that band where they have it, they're not really struggling, they need a little bit of extra support, and there's a large group of our English learners there. So why does that matter? So I'm going to show you this part again. So English only now is off of the bar graph. This is only English learners. On the left-hand side are English learners, and that is what is reported on CAASPP. So when I show you those reports and I show you this is how our English learners are performing on ELA, math, science, that's the bar that you're seeing. If you look to the right, the students in the middle column are students who have been reclassified 1 year. So this year I reported how English learners were doing and they took a dip. All of those kids in that middle column, we have 70% advanced and proficient are no longer considered English learners per CAASPP because they've been reclassified. So they're now over in our general population, but now we can't compare apples to apples anymore because now I have 70 kids who last year took CAASPP as an English learner, were reclassified, and this year are not considered in that group anymore. Go one more column over, those are students who have been reclassified 2 years. And you can see how well they are achieving, this is ELA, how well they're achieving on the ELA CAASPP scores, which is good for us. As Dr. Nicholas said, we're doing what we need to get done. We're giving them the programs, the support, the interventions, and the tools to be successful to move out of and be reclassified. They're now part of our general population, but on the EL side, it looks like our English learners are not moving because they're now no longer part of that population on CAASPP. So here you can see math, the same thing, our English learners over on the left-hand side. As students reclassify each year, they get stronger and stronger with their skills as they're acquiring more and more proficiency in the subjects, in the content areas. And science. So again, you can see that science isn't as proficient as the other areas, however, it continues to grow year over year as they become proficient. So that's CAASPP, and we talked about this being CAASPP being one of the key indicators for proficiency for English learners, but the second part was LPAC, that additional performance assessment I talked about. Director Johannan and the team have developed an English learner dashboard. So we're not just looking at CAASPP. This is specifically looking at the LPAC assessment. And the LPAC assessment has an overall performance level that looks similar to CAASPP in that it's going to have your well-developed, that's blue, your moderately developed green, and then somewhat developed yellow with that red color being beginning to develop. LPAC is broken into two general areas. It's broken into oral language performance and it's broken into written language performance. And within each of those bands, there are these bottom subgroups. So you see oral language performance is broken into listening and speaking. And if you look at listening and speaking on the bottom two, you see all that blue. The students are doing much better in the listening speaking category compared to over on the right-hand side bottom, you can see the blue in the reading and the writing, which is typical for an English learner. They're gonna learn that listening and speaking first. So all to say that it's not just CAASPP. There's more to English learners and we recognize that, and by having this data and being able to take action and support students in their learning, this is again another game changer for us with the data matrix. So putting English learners aside, Dr. Nicholas again talked about the new student assimilation and acclimation and how there is a period of time when the students come here that we're working with them, providing our interventions in our LUSD way to get them where they need to go. And there is a time period that it takes to get them acclimated up and get the proficiency they need. So in this slide, we're going to talk about ELA. 75.71% are overall ELA, all students. This is everybody in the district who's taken CAASPP. Students with us 1 to 2 years are scoring 64.80%. So new students coming to the district are scoring less than our overall district numbers. Students with us 3 years, 78.64%. And when they're here 4 years, for ELA, it's flattening out a little bit at 3 to 4 years, but you can see that if we were to say our scores over time, that 1 to 2 year of new kids coming in from other districts, not getting the LUSD way, but when we get them caught up, they're bouncing right back up. We recognize that and we get it done, but it's important to note that that's what's causing a dip. And as Dr. Nicholas talked about, we're going to have that ceiling and things are going to change based on new kids coming in. It's going to take a couple years. We're going to get them bumped back up, but all the meanwhile, more new kids are coming in. In math, 71.74% overall proficient in advanced, and students coming to us from other districts, first 2 years, 61.1%. In the third year, students who've been with us 3 years, their scores are much higher. And 4 years with math, significantly higher. Science, 65.96% overall. Students with us 1 to 2 years, 51.82% advanced and proficient. And students with us 3 years, 68.21%. And 4 years, 75.16%. So while our overall score might be 65% because there are some students who are struggling who are just coming here in 1 to 2 years, it's fine. We're making it happen and we're going to get it done for them so that in their third year and their fourth year, they're going to be able to show the success that we know that they can produce. This is a big screen, so I'm going to walk you through it by section. So this is the next phase for us. Sean shared, or Director Yohannan shared the MAP matrix. That was that other big screen that looks similar to this, right? And MAP is one of our assessments that are important to us to do those benchmarks throughout the year. MAP is only assessed 3 times. So while it gives us great data, it gives us great data in August, in January, and in May. We have yet to have that level of data in real time, and this is what they're working on right now. So the data team has developed this dashboard for in-time teacher usage to get the kids the support they need in the moment. On the left-hand side, in this blue box that I just highlighted, so I'll rewind it again so you can see it. It's not very clear. Those are assessments over time. They are weekly assessments. This dashboard is set up for 3rd through 6th grade students. So a teacher is going to be able to see how are my students performing in my class on weekly assessments. The assessments will stay up there, so throughout the year, the teacher can look at this report and say, are they getting better? Is it related to specific fiction, nonfiction, informational text stories? Like they know that by unit over on the left-hand side. But if you go to the middle section now, this part in yellow, these are now the specific standards that the assessment is testing. So the teacher can look here and see in yellow. So if I'm looking at reading informational text, it's in the top left-hand corner of that yellow box. Those 4 standards right there that are pretty close, 57 point something, okay, my whole class is scoring here. What's going on? I need to go back in because they are not scoring well here. That can now be a whole class instruction opportunity versus having to pull kids back. That's a game changer for teachers to see that in the moment because they're used to having to hand score things or thinking, oh, you know, Heather's struggling here. I'm going to pull her back for informational support, not knowing exactly what standard that Heather needs to get the immediate attention. Same thing with foundational skills in the blue. So if you go down to the same box, but you go directly below it, how much time do I really have to spend on those standards as a teacher? Because 3 of them are already advanced. The kids already have it. So I can spend less time on, let's say, a 30-minute lesson because those kids have it. I can spend 10 minutes on that lesson, go through it quickly, and move on to the next standard they need help with. The last part is on the right-hand side, showing that everything we presented so far with the data matrix has been district level, principal level, really what can leaders do to support things happening in the classroom. This is geared up for it to be principal and teachers. So a teacher now is going to be able to look at this, say, how did my kids do? Oh, wow, my kids did great in reading informational text. Oh, but Irene's kids, how'd yours do? They didn't do well. Let's talk about what we did instructionally so that we can move the kids forward. So really being able to have better conversations. So bringing it full circle back to the high level again of where we are as a district with our overall standards and our increases in ELA math and science, understanding along the way that there's some areas of concern that we are addressing while celebrating at the same time, and knowing that This data matrix is a game changer for students and for teachers. It's allowing us to find out outcomes for students in real time that can give us analysis by standards, allows more clarity for student needs, targeted interventions, allows instructional decision-making based on real-time data, sharing best practices, common planning time, and vertical articulation. With all that said, now what? So now we already know, beginning of the year, we're pivoting, right? We know there's things that we can do to support. At the high school, we're piloting ELD curriculum, piloting a special education curriculum, U.S. history, English and social studies are revamping rigorous curriculum design units. The TK8, we have TK training on the preschool transitional kindergarten learning foundations. Our K2 reading difficulty screener will also be incorporated into the data matrix, so we're going to have that real-time data for our students at K2. Our intervention teachers will be starting pulling students into small groups within the next few weeks, and we have developed our PE scope and sequence for 4th through 8th grade. So lots for us that we've been able to do based on now having real data to make informed decisions. And with that, concludes this presentation.